Okay, Placidusax's Ruin. Long story short, not a great spell. When it does work, it has its moments, but most of the time it just doesn't work for reasons that I'll get into later. But basically, the spell is a 3-hit combo. You can kind of think of it like that. It's got 3 distinct parts, and you want to land at least 2 of them for the spell to be viable. Otherwise, you're just screwing yourself over when you even press the button. First part, the lightning burst, really good. I am sure you have seen this one used in duels before. It's very quick, very big, does respectable damage, and what's really important is this is the only part you have control over, because the next 2 parts, the horizontal swipes and the uppercut at the end, you are going to struggle to change at all. You can tilt it from left to right using the left stick, or I guess it'd be WASD if you're on a keyboard for whatever reason, but you can't quite control the actual angle it goes at. And you also can't really change the timing that much. Like, you can sort of change it by virtue of changing when it reaches a point by just kind of moving against the beam to keep it in one spot. But other than that, there's not a lot you can do other than just lock on and pray. I would recommend locking on instead, because then the beam can actually change its angle a little bit. If you're not locked on, it's very difficult, as I said. The uppercut is alright. The uppercut actually has pretty decent tracking, and it's a little fast, so people have a bit of trouble dodging it. But yeah, basically, what you want is to do the lightning burst, and then your opponent panics, and they get hit by either the horizontal beam or the vertical slice, and if you're really lucky, and the stars and planets align, you can do the lightning burst, and then hit them with the horizontal slash, and then roll catch them with that final uppercut. But chances are you won't. Alright, you may have noticed something a little peculiar about the last clip, and I'm just gonna spill the beans for you. Placidusax's Ruin can go through walls. Yeah, just let that sink in. It's got a little AoE explosion wherever the beam hits, and that's not just a visual effect, it actually does create a sort of spherical hitbox that can go through little barriers like you find in the Helic tree. It can't go through thick walls. I've tried it. I don't have any clips in Farum Azula of this working, for instance, because the walls there are just fucking chunky. But yeah, this is just a neat trick to have. Doesn't do a lot of damage. I think you only get like 800 damage off of just hitting the beam. But it's nice. It's a nice little surprise to have, especially since most people's reaction to seeing the spell is to hide behind a barrier, because that's normally the correct response, but it doesn't work in this case. Does this mean you should use Placidusax at long range? No, not really. Like I said, the damage is a bit of a problem. The main thing is, this doesn't actually have the super high range that you'd expect. Like, before I recorded this video, I thought Placidusax had the sort of range of like Frenzied Burst or Loretta's Great Bow, where it would be insane, and I'd be able to just pressure people from a distance. That is not the case. The range is basically identical to Glintstone Comet. I hope you can see that in the footage, because I have a couple clips where I am just barely out of range, and someone's comet is also just barely out of range, and we just sort of look like an idiot. But the big problem is that it's such a long wind-up to get to that vertical slice that has the juicy range. Even if you're hitting with the horizontal, like you've got the slight angle so that the horizontal slash has enough range, you're still probably going to eat a projectile, and you'd be better off using pretty much any other spell. Lightning bolt, a fireball, a glintstone, something like that. They would all be better choices at long range. And you can use it at long range against people who don't have a projectile of their own. Like in that previous clip, it was just Radahn dude and a sorcerer who didn't want to hit me. So then it was useful, but it's not useful against the average player. It's just gonna make you eat a spell, and it's not worth doing. And that's a common theme with this spell, just not worth doing because you'll eat a shit ton of damage. In case you didn't know, even if you hit your opponent with the lightning, you do everything right, they can still punish you. Because if they just roll in, they will be too close for the beam to hit. And God forbid you miss with the lightning, because then they're guaranteed gonna do it. But yeah, even if you hit them, they can still punish you with whatever they want, because you can't cancel Placidusax. You are forced to sit there while they do whatever they want in your blind spot. Sometimes you'll get off easy and they'll just do an R1, but if you're unlucky, they can heal and do charged heavy, just whatever they want to you, and you have to take it because you are stuck in this very long animation, completely blind. You cannot angle far down enough to hit someone who is up in front of you, and it's very easy for them to just spam roll towards you, avoid the beams, and then do what they want. And that is what I think the crux of the problem with this spell is. It's the risk reward, and the risk is you eat a weapon art or whatever crazy damage people can do in this game, and the reward is maybe you get like 1,000 damage. You'll notice something in common with the clips where I kill people with this spell is that they don't actually have very high health by Elden Ring standards. So you're basically trying to prey on people who don't know much about the game, with the knowledge that sometimes you will press the spell and you'll just be completely unable to fight back. You will be a sitting duck while Placidusax screams and shakes his head around, and you're just stuck there praying that you don't die. And that is my main gripe with Placidusax. Okay, so what if we get creative with it? Maybe it's like Ogheel's Flame, and we can do some crazy jump cast shenanigans to make it work. Jump cast, long story short, doesn't benefit this spell very much. The benefit of jump cast is actually to use it in close range. Like you jump, and then you cast, and that just skips all of the startup. It makes the spell come out instantly. You can fake it out by doing a bunch of empty hops. It's a very powerful in duels. In invasion, not that great. And you're also relying on the fact that the lightning will kill them. Otherwise, like I said, you'll get absolutely mixed. But yeah, jump casting isn't that helpful. You can't get the right angle to make it work. You have to be very precise to actually hit someone with the beam as you're sweeping it, and you can't free aim to do that, because if you press the stick, down to try and angle the beam down, you'll actually just turn around behind you. So you have to either lock on and just focus on one person with your jump cast, or you can just try and do actual trigonometry to calculate when is the right moment to press L1 while you're falling past a ledge. And falling past a ledge is the only situation where you can really jump cast this. You can't ambush someone from above, because that just makes the blind spot even bigger. It makes it huge. The only part of Placidusax that can actually hit below is the very start of the vertical uppercut, and that is a crapshoot at best. Yeah, that's about all there is to know about this spell. You can use the lightning burst for gravity if you really wanted to, but I don't think it's worth spending 3 whole attunement slots to get a slightly worse version of rejection. I think that's a bit silly. But anyway, that's pretty much all I've got for today. I have a few more clips, but it's just more of the same. There's no point repeating myself. This spell is not great. It has one use, and that is jewels. But outside of that, it's just not worth using instead of other spells. There might be something there if you spend a lot of time learning the angles and getting some cool setups, but I don't think there's anything truly consistent. The floating might have a little hyper armor, like a tad. I think I poised through 1 tick of rot breath on a couple of occasions, but that's about it. I haven't managed to poise through any actual weapon attacks, so I don't know what's going on there. It doesn't make sense to me. But I cannot be bothered looking into it because this spell is just so aggressively mediocre that poise wouldn't help it. And that's so weird to say. But yeah, that's it. I apologize for the stuttering of the footage in this video. There's a couple points where I really dropped frames. I was having a bit of trouble setting up my new capture card. Shoutouts to Cadence, by the way. She sold me it for super cheap. But yeah, that's it. Up next is going to be the lightning incantations, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you later.